but remember me when it is well with you. Genesis 40:14. Bible character, Adam and Eve. Story found in Genesis 1-3. Nature of suffering. They lost a kingdom, lost paradise, and lost a perfect relation with their king, maker, father, and God. They had to live with the fact that they inflicted harm, disease, and death on their descendants. Who caused the trial, conflict, torment, or sorrow? They caused their own downfall. Commentary. Although they were tempted, they were the ones who chose to obey their desire rather than God. Yielding to temptation does not make them any less guilty. It is not necessary to know the dark side. Rage, jealous, guilt, and other evils were unknown before the fall of Adam and Eve. A desire to experience all of life is never a good idea. Outcome, lesson learned, or key verse. The Hebrew grammatical description of knowledge and evil means the mental understanding of evil and understanding based on experiencing the range of life from good to evil. Adam and Eve were not content to understand good. They wanted to understand the ramifications of evil as well. They wanted to become like God in this way. Instead, they experienced shame. The perfect relationship in their marriage was tainted by bitterness, regret, and blame. They did not think they lacked anything until someone whispered discontent into their ears. Thus they lost joy and blessings and the purpose for which they had been created. They lived with regret and the heartache of seeing grief, sickness, and evil afflict their descendants. Bible character, Cain. Story found in Genesis 4. Name of suffering, guilt and wandering. Who caused the trial, conflict, torment, or sorrow? Cain caused his own suffering. He probably had not planned to kill his brother, but accidental murder happens. Cain allowed his jealousy to master his emotion. In his jealousy, he murdered his brother. Commentary. Cain stated, "My punishment is more than I can bear." In Hebrew, the word for guilt and punishment are the same. Thus, guilt is also one of the punishments that accompany wrongdoing. Guilt is a difficult thing for the human conscience to bear. Cain was first under the power of jealousy, then the power of rage, then the power of guilt. Cain also experienced fear and perhaps paranoia that his brothers and sisters would murder him in return. He understood that justice required death for death, even though God would not make that decree until after Noah exited the flood. The ground that had been cursed because of Adam now reserved a specific curse for Cain. Cain would know neither farm animals nor crops. His only recourse was to trade and to build a city. God saw the grief and pained conscience in Cain, and in his mercy showed Cain grace and protection. Outcome, lesson learned, or key verse. Cain declared that his guilt/punishment was too hard to bear. God is merciful toward the guiltless. Bible character, Hagar. Story found in Genesis 16-21. Nature of suffering, being enslaved to a cruel slave mistress, being used by her master for sex, being divorced and cast into the desert with a young child. Who caused the trial, conflict, torment, or sorrow? Hagar and her slave mistress. Commentary. Hagar seems to be either very young or very emotional, or both. It is not clear when she became Sarah's slave, but it is likely she was one of the slaves given by Pharaoh to Sarah. Thus, when Sarah was divorced for lying, Hagar was taken from the luxury of the palace to become a wanderer with her new masters. Like many slave women, Hagar was used by her master for sex and to bear his child. She's the first divorced single mother mentioned in the Bible, and one of the first people in the Bible whose child was named. She's the first person shown in the Bible who intended to commit suicide. Her relationship with God and heaven are shown to the reader. Although she had no control over how her owners used her body, she made matters worse for herself by becoming spiteful and proud toward those who had misused her. Outcome, lesson learned, or key verse. She called the name of the Lord who spoke to her. You are the God who sees me. Genesis 16:13. Bible character: Lot and his wife. Story found in Genesis 13:14-19, 2 Peter 2:7. Nature of suffering: living among sinners. Who caused the trial, conflict, torment, or sorrow? Lot. Commentary: Lot was given a choice between living in a land that seemed good for livestock and living in a fertile area. He chose the fertile area. Unfortunately, that fertile area was near several very wicked cities. Scripture says his soul was vexed every day as he contemplated the life around him. In addition, it is possible he lost 2 of his daughters as well. It is unclear in the English scripture if Lot had 2 married daughters plus 2 unmarried daughters, or merely 2 unmarried daughters who lived in his house. Scripture does say that he and his wife delayed leaving Sodom. It is possible they were awaiting their sons-in-law and married daughters. Outcome, lesson learned, or key verse. Certain locations may seem advantageous, but they may lead to future trouble. The strong Christian may not succumb to the sins of a certain city, but he or she will have a stressful existence nevertheless. Moreover, the day will come for all Christians when they must grieve for, or wait for, unsaved family members behind. Yet the Lord commanded them, remember Lot's wife. Some will be taken and others left.